From forgotten corners of the state to the heart of small town pride, Marvin Bartlett has been shining a spotlight on the stories that make Kentucky so unique. His Spirit of the Bluegrass segments have become a favorite here on Good Day at 4 and are now getting a second life in a beautifully compiled book that you see here. Marvin is from our sister station WDKY in Lexington, and he joins us now to talk about the inspiration behind these stories and what he's learned along the way and details of an upcoming book signing event. Marvin, it's so good to talk with you.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. Good to see you.
Good to have you here on the show. So let's just jump on into it. What first sparked Spirit of the Bluegrass?
Well, it's, people say all the time they don't watch the news anymore because it's all bad or sad. And, we like to do segments like this to prove that's not necessarily the case. And these are the kind of stories I grew up enjoying watching way back with Charles Kuralt on the road or listening on the radio to Paul Harvey. The kind of stories that really grabbed my attention. And I always hoped someday that I would have a segment like that of my own where I could just go out and explore the state and travel around and do these things about ordinary people who do extraordinary things.
Well, you nailed it, because it's a segment that we look forward to in the show because we know that's what we're going to get. How did you choose which stories to include?
In the book, I wanted to do things that maybe lifelong Kentuckians would even be surprised to learn about, maybe things they've never heard about or didn't know very much about. So that was hard. I've done about 250 of these segments, and I had to pare it down to about 80 for the book. So that was really my criteria, to do the ones that weren't quite as familiar to folks.
Do you have a personal favorite?
I get asked that all the time, and it's hard to say that I have a favorite. I do like the legends. I like the stories about the ghost stories and cryptids and things I don't necessarily believe in, but I think they're great stories that ought to be preserved and ought to be told. I like the stories about quirky people like Cecil Ison in Rowan County, who runs the Home for Wayward Baby Dolls. I like the Ventriloquism Museum up in northern Kentucky, where you go in and thousands of eyeballs are staring at you. Just the quirky and more unusual things.
They're such great stories. Any surprises along the way?
No, I don't think there's any surprises. I find that everybody, it's kind of cliche to say everybody has a story, but they do. People who think I'm not interesting or I shouldn't be on TV, if you can spend the time and talk to them just a little bit, you can usually pull something out of them that is quite interesting.
What do you hope readers get from Spirit of the Bluegrass?
I hope they, as I say, I hope they are just, some of the stories are inspiring, so I hope they're inspired by some of the stories. People have overcome some obstacles. I hope they have a pride in their state, which is, I'm a native West Virginian, but I've been in Kentucky now 40 years. I would do the same kind of stories if I were in West Virginia now. I want people to really have a pride in their state and to look at the things that make us unique. And, a lot of times those of us in the mountains are looked down upon, or we're the subjects of stereotypes. And I want this to be a book that shows that we have a lot of spirit that needs to be celebrated.
It's so nice to get to know the personality behind those stories, Marvin, I have to say. Could there be a second volume?
Well, we'll see how this one sells. I certainly do have the material. As I say, I've done about 250 of them. And I had to put this book to bed about a year ago for the publisher. So I've done some stories since then that I wish had made the book. So if it goes well, I'm certainly not averse to doing a volume 2.
Well, we'll look forward to talking to you if and when that happens. Now, I understand that you have a book signing taking place in Moorhead on the 24th of this month. When and where is that taking place, and what could attendees expect?
I do. That is at Coffee Tree Books on Main Street in Moorhead, Kentucky, on June 24th from 5 to 6 p.m. I hope a lot of folks come out. They don't have to even buy a book. Just come and talk to me, share their ideas. Of course, if they want to buy a book, that's good too. But we'll discuss the book, take questions and answers, and then sell a few and sign a few if folks wish. So again, that's Coffee Tree Books on June 24th in Moorhead at 5 p.m.
And where can folks go for more information on what we talked about today, the Spirit of the Bluegrass, or perhaps if they'd like to see some of these segments that we're talking about?
Yeah, there's a YouTube channel that coincides with the book. It's simply Spirit of the Bluegrass on YouTube. And if you go there, you can match up the stories in the book with the video. So if you read a story and you say, I'd like to see that, or I'd like to hear that person speak, you can do that.
And the book, folks, is available now. Marvin Bartlett with WDKY in Lexington telling us more about the Spirit of the Bluegrass, the segments, the book, and the sort of the process that went into all of these wonderful stories. We really appreciate you joining us on the show. Is there anything else that you'd like to add?
No, I just appreciate, I used to work in Charleston. I appreciate that there's maybe still a few people back there who know who I am. I appreciate that you show these stories there. And as I say, I think there are a lot of connections between Kentucky and West Virginia, and we share a lot of similarities. And so I hope folks there enjoyed the book as much as I enjoyed putting it together.
Marvin Bartlett, thanks so much for joining us on Good Day at 4.
Thank you, Mary Lee.
Isn't he great? There's more where that came from. Marvin is providing us with another segment this week where he's introducing us to a one-man operation with just one product. It's a small business that spreads the spirit of the bluegrass.